This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1720, Previews.
Laser beams, opinions like the seasons on everything you read in comics, movies, games, toys, artists, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek, uniting the world's mightiest heroes. This is...
I'm Adam Murdo.
And I'm Chris Eberly.
Comic Geek Speak.
Hello, everybody. It is that special time of the month once again when we CGS Geeks gather to discuss the latest edition of the Previews comic shop catalog and gush and enthuse over all the new releases that are due to come out a couple of months hence. This episode, we're going to be looking at the January 2019 catalog, number 364, dealing with releases mostly arriving in shops in March of this year. And joining me on the horn is my good friend and colleague, Chris Eberly. How are you tonight, Chris?
Brother Murdo, as always, I'm thrilled to be here after a long and in some ways difficult day, certainly professionally. It's always good to end it with this wonderful flight of fancy and fellowship.
Happy to be your respite, Chris.
Thanks, bro.
All right, and since this is a previews episode, that means that it is sponsored, as always, by our good friends at the Discount Comic Book Service. You may visit their website at dcbservice.com to find out how they can fill all of your online comic book pre-ordering needs. You can avail yourself of their many fabulous discounts. Every single new comic book release from Marvel, DC, and Image and Dark Horse is automatically 40% off if you order it from dcbservice.com. Discounts from other publishers fall into the 20 to 35% range. All trade paperbacks and hardcovers from Marvel and DC are automatically 50% off, which is a honey of a deal. They also offer their legendary bundles, which is a package of comic books with a common theme, common publisher, common imprint, etc., which are offered to you en masse for 50% off if you buy the whole lot. There are several DC bundles being offered monthly from dcbservice.com these days. They've also got a Valiant bundle on offer this month. There are certain special bargains every month also of single issues. Usually the first issues of a new series, for example, that are offered at 50% off or even up as high as 75% off on rare and special occasions. If you go to order your comics from dcbservice.com, you also have the option of having them shipped to you on either a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis. And for a small extra fee, you can also have each and every individual comic sent to you by DCB Service individually bagged and boarded. In your choice of 3 different grades of bag and board. So that's kind of the premier treatment for which you have to pay just a few extra cents on the comic. And, of course, there's their banner customer service. You can always count on them to come through if you have any kind of issue or question with the service you receive from them. You just give them an email at customer.service@dcbservice.com, and somebody on the other end of the line, our friend Cameron Merkler or his wife, or one of their many crack employees will iron out that problem in no time for you. They're very reliable, dependable, sometimes preternaturally so. It's a service we've all used and we all swear by, and it's especially useful for those of you who are not lucky enough to live near a quality local comic book shop. So by all means, go to dcbservice.com and give them a try. Tell them CGS sent you.
And one thing I want to add to that, Murdo, just little thoughts from the holidays. My younger son, John, really enjoys Star Wars, so I ordered several trades from the recent Marvel series through their sister company, In Stock Trades. And as you were saying, the service is just as exceptional there. I sent them an email because I was a little worried they might not get to my house in time for the actual Christmas day. They responded quickly. They assured me they would, and certainly they did. So once again, whether it's dcbservice.com or instocktrades.com, you just can't go wrong with the selection, the discounts, and the customer service.
Righto. Because both instocktrades.com and dcbservice.com, they're run by the same people, as you said, Chris, and it's a family-owned business, and they do care about the satisfaction of their customers. So I'm glad that you and June had a positive experience with them recently.
Indeed.
All right. Now, before we get down to running down this month's previews catalog and all the goodies contained therein, I do have one more announcement from our own podcast. And this is one that is made roughly annually this time, since we are approaching awards show season. It is time once again for us to send out the clarion call to you, the listeners, to help us in the production of our annual comic book award show that we do here on our podcast, the Comic Geek Speak Best of 2018 Awards. Yes, it's one of those increasingly rare occasions, unfortunately, during the current incarnation of Comic Geek Speak, when you, the listeners, get your chance to participate directly in the production of the show and make your voices heard. You know, back in the salad days of our ex-producer Peter Rios, it was just one facet of his prodigious producerial prodigy, that he was, his polymathic producing genius for podcasts, that he was always devising new ways to get the listeners involved. This is one of the few that has survived his departure several years ago. But this is it's your chance as listeners to participate in the nomination process for what we at Comic Geek Speak consider the best and brightest of the new series, characters, creators, etc., that helped to make comic books so enjoyable in the year 2018. And to find out how you can participate in this process, you can go to thecomicforums.vanillacommunity.com and seek out a thread bookmark near the beginning of the Comics Talk Community On Topic forum page, bannered with the CGS Best of 2018 Awards. There you will find a list of 16 categories in which we're seeking nominations. I will read those on the air here and never again until our nominations episode a few weeks from now. Those 16 categories are Best New Hero or Hero Team, debuting in 2018, Best New Villain or Villain Team, Best New Comic, that is an ongoing comic, the first issue of which must have shipped in 2018. Best Limited Series, the last issue of which must have shipped in 2018. Best Single Issue of an ongoing series or one-shot, self-contained. Best Cliffhanger or Moment. Best Storyline, that can be within a single series or across multiple series, like a crossover. Best Sleeper or Surprise Hit. Best Ongoing Comic, that may or may not have begun publication in 2018. It could be a series that began earlier and continued. Best Graphic Album, that's either an original graphic novel or a collection of earlier material. Best Writer. Best Artist. Best Writer/Artist, one person who performs both functions. Best Color Artist. Best Letterer. And Breakthrough Talent of 2018, a creator whose career has reached new heights during that year and, in your view, deserves recognition for that. So those are the 16 categories in which we seek nominations. If you would like to participate in the nominations process, you may make up a ballot in which you nominate one person, place, or thing, and no more than one in each of those categories. Please make a nomination in at least 8 of those categories. If you nominate something in 7 or fewer categories, your nomination ballot will be considered incomplete and will not be counted. Once you have done that, you may email your ballot to bestof, B-E-S-T-O-F, at comicgeekspeak.com. You can get it in there by the deadline of 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday, February 10th, 2019. So that's just a few weeks away, and hopefully if we can keep to the timetable that I've got planned out in my head here, we'll get those nominations together. We'll have a special nominations reveal episode of Comic Geek Speak shortly after that deadline date, and then we'll give you guys listening in at home a chance to vote on all the nominees, because each of us participating geeks, co-hosts on the podcast, will submit a nominee for each category, and then whichever creator, character, etc., gets the most nominations from you listeners in each category will be the official listener nominee in that category. In the case of a tie, we'll just slap all the nominees that have tied for that category onto the ballot, and the more the better. So just get those ballots together. Please, one ballot per person, and we'll find out what the results are sometime around mid-February, and then there will be another round of voting in which you will get to vote for all those nominees in each category supplied either by you or by us, the geeks, and there will be a final awards show sometime around the end of the month of February. So this is kind of an exciting time for us every year. It's a chance for us to find out what we ourselves and have enjoyed the most in it's kind of a self-inventory of our tastes in the course of the past year. And it's also a chance for us to find out from you guys listening in what you've really been enjoying. So it's kind of mutually beneficial for all of us. We all get a chance to find out what some of the best reads of the past year are, and in some cases, the best reads that we happen to miss out on.
Yep.
So there you go, folks. Get those ballots in soon.
Murd, I want to thank you again because you always spearhead this, and I think it's a wonderful contribution to the show. I also should point out that I don't know if it was last year or the year before that, you actually came into the studio in a tuxedo to MC the final winners, which, of course, was done in high style, to say the least.
Thank you, Chris. Just wanted a little bit of that red carpet experience here in the carpet of indeterminate color studio surroundings here at the CGS studio. Yeah, that was 2 years ago, and there's photographic evidence out there on the Twitter, courtesy of our friend Pants, of the tuxedo incident of which you speak.
Well, I've written down all the categories, so they're fresh in my mind. I'm looking forward to going through this. I always enjoy this thoroughly, so thanks again for taking the lead on it.
A pleasure and more than a pleasure. Okay, shall we turn our attention to the catalog now, Chris?
Amen to that, my friend. We should point out right away, Murd, on page 33, they've released the FCBD books for 2019.
Oh, goody.
So we have, obviously they break it down into different tiers. So there's gold sponsors and silver. That only really matters if you're a retailer because it's an idea. Give you an example of what tiers you can purchase. Because remember, the stores still have to pay for these. As I did for many years. I mean, it's usually cents per book, but it adds up. So we've got from Arch, we've got Riverdale Season 3 Special. We got from Dark Horse, Stranger Things, excuse me. Welcome to the Whedonverse from Boom Studios, dealing with Buffy and Firefly. DC, of course, is Top Secret. We have no idea what that's going to be about. Same thing with Marvel. They have a Secret Avengers story. TMNT from IDW. Deadly Class from Image, Doctor Who from Titan, Bloodshot from Valiant, Tokyo Pop, Vault, Viz Media, whole slew of publishers here. Aftershock with Animosity. A lot of good stuff.
Ahoy Comics has got Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man, as seen in Tom Pyre and Jamal Eigel's The Wrong Earth, which is a great new comic that I know Ian Levinstein and I both enjoy.
Terrific. So if there's a comic shop near you within easily travel distance on free FCBD, please stop by and give them some support. In addition to, scarfing down all the free books, throw a few dollars away and buy something in the store as well, because I can assure you that retailers, when they do this, that many of them are hoping that you'll also come in and make additional purchase. A lot of stores, will have sales and different promotions. So it's a great day to be a comic book reader, and hopefully it's also a good day to be a comic book retailer. So that's going to be on May 4th, 2019.
Oh, it's falling on May 4th again this year, huh?
Yep. And I'm assuming that's when the new Avengers film is coming out, right around that time.
Yep. And it's also National Star Wars Day, as in May the 4th be with you.
Oh, that's right, Murd.
It's always a rare geek extravaganza whenever those two things coincide.
Excellent. All right.
And don't forget, if you don't happen to be lucky enough to live near an LCBS that you can support, as Chris has urged you to do on Free Comic Book Day, you can go to dcbservice.com this month. And in addition to the usual order placing screens that you will see at their website, when you go to check out after buying some comics, you'll get the option to choose as many as 5 Free Comic Book Day selections that you can have included in your May shipping order. You get to order them this far in advance.
Aren't they swell, gang? Terrific.
They've always done just fine by us.
Yes, sir. Ready for Image, my friend.
All right. Since that's still getting used to Image being first in line. I'm just so accustomed to Dark Horse having the inside lane here.
All right, so on page 54, the first offering, which is given a Gem of the Month designation by Previews, is Little Bird number 1. Writing Darcy, forgive me, I mispronounced this, Darcy Van Polgeest, and artist is Ian Bertram. So Darcy Van Polgeest, I'm probably butchering that name, I apologize, is a director-screenwriter. It brings the same writing finesse to Ian Bertram's breathtakingly detailed artwork in the gorgeous, hyper-detailed miniseries Little Bird, with the same limitless scope as a new East of West or Saga, and the drama and surrealism of Akira. Wow, they're putting it in big company there. Little Bird follows a young resistance fighter who battles against an oppressive American empire and researches for her own destiny in a world on fire. Probably not for right-wingers. If they're talking about an oppressive American empire.
Right. Sounds a little bit like Brian K. Vaughan's We Stand on Guard, and that it's an American-Canadian future dystopian conflict, but from kind of a different perspective, from the point of view of some of Canada's indigenous peoples.
And there is an interview on page 55 with the creators, which is I'm just perusing that now. This sounds very interesting. Again, this kind of story, the skill of the writer is so vital because it can easily become very ham-handed and reactionary. But if they really put some subtlety into it and some nuance, some thought, this kind of story can be extremely compelling. So I may give this a shot depending on my budget for the month.
All right. Amen. And speaking of subtlety and nuance, next up is something that promises to have none of those things. Page 60, Assassination, #1. Brought to you by writer Kyle Starks, who's cranked out quite a few Rick and Morty stories for Oni Press, and artist Erica Henderson, who has drawn a lot of issues of Squirrel Girl for Marvel. Interesting pairing. And the result is kind of a high-octane, absurdist love letter to 80s action movies. It's about the former greatest hitman in the world who hires 20 of the other best hitmen in the world as personal bodyguards. Just look at the cover image to the first issue. It's a whole bunch of really intense-looking guys and gals pointing guns at each other in bewildering profusion. It's kind of taking the larger-than-life, bizarre personalities and over-the-top action of 80s action movies and dialing it even further up over the top and also making it funny.
And speaking of over the top, if you look on page 62 and 63, they give you a 2-page spread of all the aforementioned assassins. Some of these names and concepts are already priceless. I'm a big fan of David Bowie Knife, Meat Stick, Wistful Stan.
Wistful Stan.
And forgive my R rating here, but Fuck Tarkington. And it's a big lug in overalls.
Yes.
And hey, we even got the Mamba twins. And of course, the sure to be challenging Connie the Tank. So
Rumble Death Patch, Smush Walker. Yeah, some of these characters are just the result of Starks coming up with the silliest sounding action movie names he could think of and then building a character under them. Others are Erica Henderson just drawing a sketch of a grimacing action movie type and then handing it to Starks and saying, hey, this person's going to be in the book. Make up a backstory for him or her.
Yeah, this could be immensely fun, depending on how well it's written. So
it's going to be chaos, but chaos of the most pleasing kind.
Indeed.
Yep, and the first issue is 50% off at dcbservice.com. So
my heart's. I'm sorry, Murray, go ahead.
I was just going to add, if you've been enjoying the Rick and Morty ongoing comic from Oni, this will probably be your cup of tea as well.
All right, as we turn the page, my heart begins to palpitate.
As I knew it would, Chris.
Now, if I only had enough money to buy one book from this previews, it would be on page 66 and 67. It's Lazarus Risen, #1 by the master team of Greg Rucka and Michael Lark. Lazarus has been on hiatus for quite some time, and also now that Saga's on hiatus, I've been jonesing for two of the greatest comic books that have been, of the past several years, neither of which have been out lately. And now that Lazarus is returning, I'm deeply excited for this, and they're doing it in a new format, which I find very interesting. So they're going to do a quarterly book, 64 pages, perfect bound, which I'm assuming perfect bound means something along the lines of the old Prestige format. I'm guessing.
Right, it's like a square bound spine.
Yeah. And $7.99. It's going to have additional back matter besides the main story. And if people aren't familiar with, Lazarus is about a near dystopian future where all the nations of the earth have essentially collapsed, and the earth is now divided up by all-powerful corporate families from different corners of the globe who dominate, various continents or regions. And it's first of all, it's the greatest work of Michael Lark's career. I've loved his work since I first discovered him on Gotham Central and the Hawkman miniseries he did way back when. Greg Rucka is writing a truly frightening, this could be our near future type of story where most people on the world have been relegated to actually they're essentially called waste, and they're basically just there to provide services to the ruling corporate families. If you're lucky, you're chosen to actually serve them in a higher capacity, and therefore you get some more privileges. And each family has a Lazarus, who is essentially a genetically engineered, basically perfect warrior, who acts as the the weapon of that family. And Forever Carlyle, is the main character, is the Lazarus of the Carlyle family, and it's really about how she discovers the truth about herself, what that leads her to do, and how it puts her really at odds with the agenda of her family. I've loved Greg Rucka's work since I first discovered him on Batman stories, and of course his masterpiece Queen and Country, and so many other wonderful things he's done. But this to me is his crowning achievement. They've created a whole world for Lazarus. Like every comic has like a timeline of how things got there, and they're going to do further exploration of that world in these larger books. I cannot wait to read this. This is the kind of book that makes me retain my faith in the comic book medium as a vital art form. Murray, I wanted your opinion. Do you think we're going to see more of this, where more, especially independent creators, will move away from the monthly format to something more along the lines of this, or perhaps periodic trade paperbacks? What do you think?
It does seem to be the way in which some creators and some comics are going. I mean, we've already mentioned a few times on the podcast that Kurt Busiek's Astro City is going to be converting itself to a series of graphic novels. This step being made by Rucka and Lark here, this is kind of a good compromise between the monthly floppy and the occasional graphic novel. It's still keeping a regular schedule, but it's a more forgiving regular schedule.
And believe me, it's well worth the wait. All right, on page 68, you're a fan of Devin Grayson, aren't you, Mert?
I am, Chris. I remember her work fondly from the late 90s and early 2000s, and I'm sorry we don't see a little bit more of it. And she's those of you who are fans of Gail Simone's work, Devin Grayson, her skill level approaches Ms. Simone's. And I'm sorry we don't see her byline on as many comics these days as we used to.
Well, she gets it's a collection of. Did you read this story, Matador?
I didn't.
Okay, and the art is Brian Stelfreeze. So, geez, I mean, that's quite a team. It's a serial killer story, and about how a Cuban-born Florida-born detective is working through the labyrinth of the Miami politics and so forth to try to hunt down this killer. I'm sure it's outstanding. Devin Grayson said is an excellent writer, and Brian Stelfreeze is one of the great artists working comics, as far as I'm concerned. Some may remember his work more recently from the Ta-Nehisi Coates Black Panther, the early issues, and all the covers he did. So this I'm sure this is well worth the money. That's on page 68. Also on page 69, again, another trade. I really enjoyed. Here's Greg Rucka again. So Black Magic, the first book of Shadows. So beautiful artwork by Nicola Scott. It's about a police officer, who is also a witch, and how those two worlds collide in a way that leads to some very distressful situations for her. If you enjoy police procedurals and you also enjoy stories about witchcraft and literally black magic and supernatural, it's Greg Rucka. And I mean, Nicola Scott's artwork is absolutely breathtaking in this. I kind of fell off with the series, not because I didn't like it, but I just kind of lost track of it a little bit in my ordering. This collects issues 1 through 11, $34.99. I'm sure it's discounted at DCB Service. This is worth it. I highly recommend this. What else in Image, brother? Strike your fancy.
Well, let's see. Oh, I hadn't even noticed this until just now. On page 71, we've got a collection of the 3-issue Ministry of Space miniseries.
That was fun.
Put out by Warren Ellis and artist Chris Weston, one of my favorites. And it's kind of an alternative history story about an RAF British space program that never was. As Chris says, that is a fun kind of quirky what-if story brought to you by the twisted mind of Warren Ellis and beautifully rendered by the hyper-detailed, period-friendly artwork of Chris Weston. And another collection that I had noticed before and had totally meant to bring up. On page 73, I say this on my behalf and that of our founder, Brian Deemer, since I know he'd be mentioning this if he were here. Scud the Disposable Assassin. The whole shebang. Yes, this is a new printing of a previously released trade paperback, which collects the entire 24-issue run of Scud, plus the Drywall Unzipped one-shot. This is an extremely offbeat action comic in a very 90s vein. It's about an assassin droid dispensed by a vending machine. Because it takes place in kind of a bizarre alternate reality where strange things like assassin vending machines exist. Scud is dispensed to for the express purpose of killing off a monster named Jeff. Who is really a strange-looking thing. It's got a mouth in its knee, and it's got an electric plug for a head, and and it's fairly typical of some of the grotesqueries that exist in the world of Scud. But Scud realizes on some level, some glitch in his programming gives him self-awareness, and he realizes that if he kills his target, he will automatically self-destruct, since that's how disposable assassins work. So instead of killing his victim, he takes on jobs as a freelance assassin to pay for life support for this creature, to keep it alive, to keep himself alive. And so that launches him on his monthly, or, well, much less than monthly, actually, adventure. The book back in the 90s was kind of chronically late, and it actually wasn't finished. The last 4 issues didn't see print until the 2000s through Image. The creator is Rob Schrab. He's got a very strange sense of humor. He was part of a improv comedy troupe called the Dead Alewives back in the 90s. The style is, if it can be described at all, I would describe it as like Quentin Tarantino meets Terry Gilliam meets Basil Wolverton. It's really very strange and also kind of funny. And each issue came with, I think there were suggested tracks, like a soundtrack, like suggested music to listen to while reading the issue, and I'm positive that each issue came with like a little dramatis personae cooked up by Schrab, a list of actors' voices whom he recommends the listener hear in his or her head while reading the dialogue of various characters. So he's basically casting like a radio drama version of the comic that the reader can then construct in the reader's head. There's just fun little touches like that. It's really wonky, fun 90s stuff. And you got the whole thing in full color. The original was in black and white, but this trade is in color. It's something that I know Brian Deemer enjoyed, and I picked up a couple of issues and kind of liked it too. So give it a shot.
All right. I wanted to shout out, jumping ahead to page 93, Paper Girls 26. Now, this is a Brian K. Vaughan, Cliff Chang book. I've, waxed rhapsodic many times over the years on how much I revere the work of Brian K. Vaughan. I have to admit, this is a series I dropped, not because I didn't love it, but just because I had to cut back on books because of finances. So it was one of the ones that I had to, make the cut. But they're saying here that they're approaching the series finale, so I'll probably jump back in via trade, and then I'll finish this off. Because if you like shows like Stranger Things, for example, or classic 80s stories like Kid Adventures, think of like Goonies or books like that, stories like that, I should say, you're really going to dig this. I mean, it's got a real sci-fi twist. These paper girls traveling through the past, present, and future, and the adventures they embark on. And it's going to conclude in July with a double-sized 30th issue. So, good chance for me to jump back on that book.
And speaking of comebacks, on page 95, after several months' absence, we've got the 9th issue of Rock Stars by Joe Harris and Megan Hutchinson. And Rock Stars, it's a series that digs into the dark myths and legends of the world of classic rock and roll. A lot of which are based on, I hesitate to say true stories, but actually circulating legends of the rock world. It's kind of like a cross between X-Files and VH1's Behind the Music. And it's written by Joe Harris, whom I remember most for having written Slingers at Marvel in the late 90s, but he's done quite a few other things as well. It's kind of an eccentric series that I personally enjoy, and I'm glad to see it back.
All right. Anything else for Image, my friend?
Actually, no. I think that'll do it for me.
All right, let's move on to Dark Horse.
Okay, then.
All right, on page 106, Invisible Kingdom #1, so written by G. Willow Wilson, art by Christian Ward. Set in a far-flung star system, this new epic sci-fi monthly saga tells the tale of two women, a young and religious acolyte and a hard-bitten freighter pilot who simply uncover a vast conspiracy between the leader of the system's dominant religion and the megacorporation that controls society. I mean, Julia Wilson is an excellent writer. I mean, she's well known for writing Miss Marvel, of course. Christian Ward did that Odyssey book, which I didn't stay with, but the art on it was dazzling. It was a retelling of the Odyssey, but in a cosmic sense. And I think all the characters were female in it too, if I remember correctly.
Exactly. Yes.
And
Bill Ellis was kind of a fan of that as well.
Yes, Bill was a big fan of that, and definitely his meat. And looking at the art here, it's that same trippy, almost psychedelic style, which I really enjoy.
Oh, the colors.
I mean, Mert, take a look on page 108, that beautiful splash page. My God.
Oh, yeah. The palette is a little more restrained there, but still.
Yeah, but I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, and that shows that the talent of the artist, the breadth of his ability there. So, based on the creators, this is probably worth checking out.
Mm. And if you'd like to check it out, the first issue is 50% off on DCBService.com.
Now, I'm always a sucker for a good World War II story on page 110. I've been raving of Black Hammer ad nauseum every month. So this is a new offshoot series, Black Hammer 45 from the World of Black Hammer 1. It's written by the creator Jeff Lemire, written also by Ray Fawkes, co-writer, and art by Matt Kindt. Wow.
Jeff Lemire and Matt Kindt together again.
So during the golden age of superheroes, an elite Air Force crew called the Black Hammer Squadron was formed to fight the Axis powers. Facing occult threats from the German side, this team was saving a family of scientists from the Nazis, but the mysterious and dangerous ghost hunter is hot on their trail. I'm in immediately. Come on, you got the Nazis, you got a cult, you got fighter planes. I've just had Raiders of the Lost Ark on earlier, by the way, just coincidentally. So very much my meat right there.
Yeah,
very excited for this.
They had me at Golden Age too, Chris.
Yep.
It's just great that these little side projects give Lemire a chance to send love letters to as many different subgenres and periods of superhero storytelling as possible.
Indeed. Let's see. I myself don't have a lot more to say about Dark Horse. What do you got, Merd?
I don't believe I actually have anything else to say about Dark Horse either.
Actually, I'm sorry. One thing I will mention. On page 130, a new edition of Moonshadow, which is a breathtaking miniseries that was done, I want to say back in the 80s?
I think it was through Epic, yeah.
Yeah, by J.M. DeMatteis and John J. Muth. Also, I think George Pratt was involved in this too. It's visually stunning. I mean, if you're not familiar with the work of John J. Muth, he did some outstanding comic work in the 1980s. So it's J.M. DeMatteis. I mean, for me, that's enough. So, as Frank Miller, I have a quote from Frank Miller here, it's lovely, it makes you feel better about comics.
Yes, this is a series I've been wanting to try for years, and if it were only a softcover edition, I think I'd be in.
I'm sure eventually they'll return to that, but it's a romantic, unreliable narrator leads us to this interplanetary coming-of-age story as an older Moonshadow recounts a strange mixed species birth in outer space, his escape from a deep space zoo, and his struggles to survive in a war-torn universe. Known as America's first fully painted graphic novel. I didn't know that. Oh, it's DeMatteis writing. That's always enough for me. And no one does this type of story better than him. So, highest recommendation.
And one more thing I'll throw in.
Go ahead.
On page 134, those of you who have kids at home, there's a new Disney's Frozen miniseries coming out through Dark Horse. Reunion Road, it's called.
I have to admit, I've never seen that movie.
I have, and honestly, I wasn't too much impressed. But then again, I'm not really the target audience.
Indeed. So, by the time it came around, my boys weren't really interested in that type of medium. But maybe someday I'll give it a view because I know it's become such a staple in our recent popular culture. Yeah. Plus, Kristen Bell's in it.
And Idina Menzel.
Yes. Ready for DC?
I am ready.
All right. Now, we can jump back, but I'm on page 4. Because for Pete's sake, it's Detective Comics 1000.
It is a milestone.
Yep. And what I'm looking at, before we could talk about the actual contents, are just all the variant covers they've done here. Wow. These are beautiful. So they've done a cover in the style of each decade of Batman. So, God, I love Steve Rude's work. He does 1930s, Bruce Timm 1940s. The 50s is Michael Cho, who's done a lot of the great DC retro covers on other trade paperbacks.
Wow. Batman and Robin being faced down by all the kooky variant Batman of the Silver Age.
Including the Rainbow Batman.
Yep.
Outstanding.
And the Zebra Batman and the Alien
Zebra
Batman and the Kilted Batman.
Who was the editors always associated with this era?
Oh, Jack Schiff.
Jack Schiff, yep. All right, the 60s is by Steranko. 70s by the late, great Bernie Wrightson. 80s by Miller, of course. 90s by Tim Sale. 2000s by Jock. And 2010s by Greg Capullo. Wow. And then, of course, the main cover is in the tradition of Bob Kane. So this look at the writers on this. Tomasi, Bendis, King, Dini, Ellis, Johns, O'Neill. I'm just glad he's there. Priest. Kevin Smith, Scott Snyder, James Tynion IV. Art by Doug Mankey, Neil Adams, of course, Greg Capullo, Tony S. Daniels, Steve Epting, Kelly Jones, he of the magnificently epic long Batman ears, Jim Lee, Alex Malev, Dustin Nguyen, Joel Jones, Alvaro Martinez, wraparound cover by Jim Lee and Scott Williams. It's a 96-page issue. You going to get this?
Well, I'm tempted. I mean, it is available for 50% off at dcbservice.com, and given that the cover price is $9.99, it would take a bargain like that to get me on board. But, yeah, and hopefully I haven't checked yet to find out if the variant covers are also 50% off, because I'd probably want that 50s cover by Michael Cho is pretty darn great. The 30s cover by Steve Root is tempting, too. So, yeah, there is a strong possibility I will check this out, because there's so much great talent between these covers.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't even matter what kind of stories they tell. They almost can't help but be enjoyable.
And we know Shane's going to get it. I'll pick it up, too, so we can talk about it. Mert, I wanted to go to page 8, because I figured you'd be interested in talking about this.
Oh,
Dial
yes.
H for Hero.
Yep, this is a venerable old DC Comics concept taking us back to the Silver Age. So this is coming out under the new all-ages-oriented Wonder Comics imprint, sort of semi-in continuity and sort of not. This isn't the first time we've seen the H-Dial in the post-Flashpoint rebooted DC universe. There was that series by China Mieville that explored the dial. This probably won't make reference to that, I'm getting the impression. But it's about a youngster named Miguel who finds the H-Dial, and kind of goes on a cross-country odyssey to go talk to Superman about it. I think I've read. It's the series is written by Sam Humphries, art by Joe Quinones. It's a 6-issue series. It looks to be fairly lighthearted, which is what Dial H. In spite of what Mieville, what great things he was able to do with that series in a more Vertigo vein, I do prefer Dial H to be kind of light, freewheeling, and above all creative. The point of the H-Dial is it's a magic, possibly alien artifact that's shaped like an old-fashioned telephone dial, and when you dial the characters that are the equivalent of HERO in our Roman alphabet, you get transformed into a superhero. It's been speculated that these heroes are drawn from parallel universes or alternate realities or timelines, and you gain the powers and costume and like a subconscious awareness of the character, or an automatic awareness of the character's name and persona as soon as you become it, and then you can use those powers for whatever ends you want, and then after a set period of time, it just sort of fades away. Back in the 60s, it was this was an ongoing feature. And it's been revived several times since then. Back in the 80s, in Adventure Comics, readers could actually submit ideas for characters for the dial wielders to turn into. So it's lots of opportunity for creativity. I mean, there's not a comic book writer, artist, or just garden variety fan who doesn't have a notebook full of ideas for superheroes that are kind of cool and fun, but not meaty enough to be an ongoing character in a universe. So Dial H is a great opportunity to use some of those and just put them out there and let the reader have fun with them. And I have no doubt but that Sam Humphries is going to give us a fun ride with this 6-issue series, and I think I am going to be buying it.
All right. I remember enjoying the brief series they did in the 2000s with this.
I'm just in the middle of reading that right now, Chris. It was written by Will
Time Bubble
Pfeiffer.
in Flight.
Indeed, yes. I'm actually approaching the home stretch of that series. Dale Eaglesham came on to be the penciler.
Who was the writer of that? I'm sorry, I forgot.
His name is Will Pfeiffer.
That's right. What do you think of it?
Well, it's a little preview of what I'll be saying on the Time Bubble about it eventually. It's kind of an anthology-style format where the H-Dial passed to like a different
Right.
character in each arc. And oftentimes it was kind of almost like a Twilight Zone approach.
Yeah,
where,
yeah.
each character's life was impacted in strange, sometimes wonderful, sometimes horrible ways by the temporary acquisition of superpowers. And some of the scripts kind of remind me of like amateur college drama, like the college kids trying their hands at writing one-act plays. So on the whole, it's really not my favorite take on the H-Dial. Let's put it that way. There's some good story ideas in there, executed somewhat unevenly, and well, on balance, I think I'd feel better about it if it weren't if continuity could work their way around it. Maybe if it had been set outside the DC universe or something.
All right. I look forward to elaborating upon that, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
I want to point on page 1011. I'm very excited for this. So a new Deathstroke Teen Titans crossover, co-written by Christopher Priest, so that's enough. Priest has been writing Deathstroke now through issue 41 here. This is a prelude to the story known as the Terminus Agenda. Robin the Teen Titans set to end Deathstroke once and for all. If Priest is at the helm, that's going to be worth reading. I'm looking forward to that. Murray, what do you think on page 12 of this concept, Second Coming #1 by Mark Russell?
Well, Chris, I've kind of given that one a maybe. My system of notation for marking up my previews catalog is usually a check mark indicates a definite buy, and a circle means a maybe, possibly buy. So this is one that I'll be probably previewing on the rack before buying it. It's written by Mark Russell, who is building a reputation rapidly as one of the preeminent satirists in working in the comics field right now. So it's about the second coming of Jesus. And he's going to be coming back to Earth and becoming the roommate of a pretty obvious Superman analog, who is in turn, in some people's estimation, a Jesus analog himself. So Jesus is going to be rooming with Sun Man, just a thinly disguised Superman, and the two of them are going to be learning from each other, I guess, as Jesus needs to talk to a messianic superhero figure, like a Superman archetype, to learn how to be a good messiah to 21st century Earth. Like I said, I'll be previewing this on the rack to see just how irreverent Russell goes with it.
Well, he's not just Sunman; he's Sunman, the last son of Crispex.
Yeah, Crispex. Yeah, that's kind of sounds like early Mad Magazine. So yeah, I am a practicing Christian, and I don't have the thickest skin all the time. So we'll just see what I think. I might enjoy this, I might not.
Fair enough. Page 13. I have not been reading Bendis' Action Comics. I may pick this up, though. I've always loved Bendis' work, but it's drawn by Steve Epting, an artist I've always revered. I go back to his wonderful run on Cap with Ed Brubaker and the masterful Velvet Espionage series that he also did with Brubaker.
Oh, yeah.
It was breathtaking artwork. So now apparently they're building to a head here with a massive story involving a secret organization called Leviathan that's leading to the destruction of such DC mainstays as the Cobra Cult, the DEO, and other DC Universe organizations. So I may give this a shot. See what Bendis is up to there. Love Epting's work. I want to put on page 18. Everybody who listens to the show knows that we love Tom King's work on Batman. But I want to point out this cover by Lee Weeks is one of the most breathtaking Batman covers I've seen in quite some time, and that's saying something. Look at that cover. Wow.
It is striking.
Yeah, that's a master at his craft right there. Woof! Beautiful. All the way down on issue 67, page 18.
Brought to you by the writer-artist team that brought you Batman Elmer Fudd.
I still haven't read that, and I've heard it's wonderful. I have to find a copy of that somewhere.
Got a lot of nominations in the Best of 2017 awards.
Yes. Do you or Shane own a copy of that book?
I definitely do, and I can't imagine Shane doesn't. Pants probably has it, too.
I'll borrow from one of you so I can give it a read.
On page 19, this is something that I know Shane loves. Batman Beyond, number 30, the ongoing series. Shane was just posting on Facebook the other day how it's been just about exactly 20 years since that animated show debuted on the Kids WB.
Oh my God,
That
20 years.
Mm-hmm. 20 years of Terry McGinnis. And Dan Jurgens has been scripting the Batman Beyond ongoing for a while now, but now the art is being done by Doc Shaner.
Wow.
And look at that cover by Chris Samnee. There's another creator I haven't seen enough of in comics lately. Yeah, so I'm still not going to buy this. I don't follow Batman Beyond, and I don't care that much about the character. But that's still a pretty
That's a hell of a creative team, Murd.
Heck yes.
Hell of a creative team. I'm jumping way ahead, so we can always jump back. But I spotted this, and I knew you'd appreciate this. On page 48, the latest Scooby-Doo team-up. Magilla Gorilla.
Yep, Magilla Gorilla for sale.
You know, I haven't read much of this series, but based on what you guys have told me, I gather it's one of the most consistently great comics being produced in recent years.
Well, certainly of the all-ages variety.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun for big kids, too. In fact, I think several of the issues are probably more fun for adults, for like knowing adults, than they are for kids.
Well, I think that JSA one they did a couple months back, for example. All right. What else you got in DC, my friend? Just kind of cruising through here.
I don't think I need to backtrack very far from there. We can look at the opposite page on page 49, Shazam. This is a series from Jeff Johns and Dale Eaglesham that I think made us turn out to be better than I had expected it to be originally.
Oh, okay.
As the new Shazam family are now finding their way through the Shazam and the Seven Magic Lands is the title of the arc. And that really does sound like a title that would be used for a story back in the golden age of comics. And so Shazam is now being used as a vehicle for exploring the nature and breadth of magic in the DC Universe, as plotted out by the chief creative architect of the DC Universe across all media these days, Jeff Johns. And in this issue, number 4, Billy and his adoptive family are exploring the Wildlands, which is basically Funny Animal World. It's not unlike Earth Sea, which was home to Captain Carrot and his amazing zoo crew, except instead I'm pretty sure it's going to be home to Hoppy the Marvel Bunny. So yeah,
excellent.
That series it's got real promise. I think Johns has said in interviews that there are going to be old Fawcett Comics characters thrown into this series that he thinks have not been used since the 40s.
Oh, wow.
So I will be reading along to see if I can spot them.
I look forward to your reaction to that. Now, wasn't one of those characters like Bullet Man? Am I correct in saying that?
He is definitely a Fawcett Comics character, but he's been seen many times since the 40s.
That's what I thought, yeah. For example, if you can think of something extemporaneously, what would be a Fawcett character that we have not seen since the 40s? Do you know of any off the top of your head? Or?
I'm not sure anybody has used the Golden Arrow since then.
Okay. All right. I love when creators show reverence to the history and dig deep. That's fantastic.
Oh, I do too, Chris.
Indeed. I'm ready for trades unless you have other floppies you want to shout out, Murr, because a lot of these are monthlies we've talked about before. But...
Right. Was there anything that I guess not. Okay, moving on then. Oh, wait a minute.
Well,
I just gave myself a lie. On page 52, Superman number 9. It's a crime syndicate appearance. So interesting to me for that reason, if nothing else. Plus more hijinks with Mr. Oz, a.k.a. the still living father of Superman, Jor-El. And apparently he's having an adventure with young John Kent, Superman's son. And this is all written by Brian Bendis, who continues to be the chief super scribe at DC right now, with art by Ivan Reis, Joe Prado, and Brandon Peterson. Okay, because I haven't been following Superman for a while. How is Jor-El back? Is he plucked out of the time stream? Or? Honestly, Chris, I don't know the particulars either. I'm pretty sure I own the comics in which they're revealed, but I'm going to remain unspoiled until a decade and a half from now. Fair enough. All right, looking at trades, a couple of things, classics I want to shout out. Page 60, whenever they do a reissue of All-Star Superman, and this is under the DC Modern Classic category, one of my all-time favorite Superman stories. I also love the animated film version they did of it as well. If you love the Superman character and all the sort of the classic archetypes of the Superman universe, do yourself a favor if you haven't read this and check out All-Star Superman. Highest recommendation. Let's see.
Murd, on page 65, under Elseworld Superman Volume 2, did you read the story Son of Superman?
I noticed that too, Chris, and I realized that I don't remember there having been a comic by that title.
Okay, because I've always heard over the years that was an exceptional story. I've never read it. I'm not sure which creative team was involved in it. Maybe Chaykin. I'm not positive, though. But I've maybe some of the forums can comment. I've heard that story's got a lot of laurels over the years. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought I heard that. So maybe someone could speak to that. But what I know is great, because I have read it more than once on page 67, Flash, Green Lantern, The Brave and the Bold. Now, all that matters here is the creative team. Mark Waid and Tom Pyre, art by Barry Kitson and Tom Grinberg. That's enough. This is a wonderful, loving take on the relationship between those two characters. They throw Green Arrow into it as well. It's got a wonderful Silver Age feel to it. I can't recommend this story enough if you've never read it. It's fantastic. It's Mark Waid again writing another love letter to some of the great concepts of the past.
Yeah. Chris, it's funny this should come out now because just the other day we were going to talk about Young Justice #1, which features a character called Teen Lantern, and I thought back to the age-old fan question of how Hal Jordan managed to survive the Silver Age without having a kid partner. I went back and dug out the second issue of this very wonderful miniseries. As you have already said, and with which I thoroughly agree. The second issue of that features Hal Jordan for the space of one issue actually getting a teen sidekick.
Oh,
and it's Wally West. His speed powers, were stolen by the criminal confederacy of Black Hand and Mirror Master. So Hal clones his power ring and lets Wally use some Green Lantern powers as Kid Lantern for the width of one story. And and you're absolutely right, Chris, that there is a fantastic Silver Age sensibility imparted to it by the creative team of this miniseries, and but still with enough contemporary feel to balance that out. It's great for fans of Silver Age comics, of modern comics, of just good, strong characterization and friendship between superheroes.
Couldn't agree more. Well put, my friend. Also put on page 71, the Kamandi Challenge. They've collected this whole... I was raving about this when it came out. I didn't stay with it, but basically they took the Kamandi character and they'd have a top-flight creative team do an issue. They'd leave Kamandi in some precarious position, and then the next team would have to get him out of that situation. Really fun. I didn't read every issue, but from what I read, I recommend that. So, also I want to mention on page 74, my favorite installment of the legendary Sandman saga, Brief Lives. Of all the Sandman arcs, this is the one that moves me the most. I don't want to spoil too much if someone hasn't read it, but it just so brings out for me the humanity of the characters. It's one of those comic stories that moves me like few others. That's Brief Lives.
It'd be nice if we could get back to our Book of the Month discussions of those Sandman volumes.
Well, Murd, I hope one day we will. I mean, no reason why we can't. Just a matter of finding, as you would put it, time.
That is exactly how I would put it and exactly how I would enunciate it.
Last thing I want to mention from DC, unless you had other things to mention, because I know that you're a fan of this, on page 77, 0 Hour of the 25th Anniversary Omnibus.
Yes, what I like to call the Forgotten Crisis.
Why do you consider it the Forgotten Crisis?
Well, because its impact on the DC universe was kind of understated, and it was regarded as kind of a cheap, low-grade, cash grab sequel to the original Crisis without having anything like the scope or impact of that first Crisis. And, well, as it's the first... It kind of marks my entry into DC Comics fandom, so it's got a special place in my heart. And I kind of hate to hear it downplayed by my fellow comics historians.
All right.
And who should be joining us via Skype right now but Ian Levinstein. How are you doing tonight, Ian?
Hey-o! Doing pretty well, guys.
Ian, I speak for CGS Assemble that your voice is a tonic for the spirit. Your critiquing skills are par excellence.
Oh, yes, they are.
And your in-depth knowledge of many areas that Mert and I are not as familiar with only adds to the glory of the program. So glad you're here, sir.
Much obliged, sir. I believe much obliged.
And perfect segue, Ian, because as we start look at IDW, because this is definitely your wheelhouse, Transformers #1. Anything you know about this?
Hadn't heard about the restart actually. So this is news to me. Is it an entire restart or is it?
Well, it starts in bold print in the ad copy. A new era dawns.
Yep, it is a prequel series set back on Cybertron, back in the good old days.
Interesting. Okay. All right. One would think they're probably going with this after the Cybertron segments of the Bumblebee movie, so it wouldn't surprise me if that's the exact reason why they decided to pull this stunt now. But it's nice to see a little bit of the old school action going on.
Written by Brian Ruckley, art by Angel Hernandez and Ron Joseph.
No names I'm familiar with, but
yeah, same here.
Curious as to what it's going to be like.
Well, I look forward to a reaction to that.
Definitely. Let's take a look here.
What else in IDW jumps out at you, gentlemen?
Well, let's see. On page 151, we've got a new series called Glow, based not so much on the original 80s wrestling entertainment franchise as on the current Netflix television series based on the original 80s wrestling entertainment franchise. It's written by Tini Howard, art by Hannah Templer, and the first issue is 50% off on DCBService.com. The artwork actually looks pretty neat.
Coincidentally, because friends have been raving about the show for the past couple of years, and I enjoy Mark Maron. I listen to his podcast when I can because he's one of the stars on the show. I love is it Alison Brie?
Yes.
Okay, who I loved in Mad Men. She's the lead in it. So I watched. Again, time is limited. I watched the first 3 or 4 episodes of the first season. I loved it, so I have to get back to that eventually. And I mean, I grew up, in the '80s, and I remember, being a pubescent, youngster, and watching the gorgeous ladies of wrestling and thinking there was, the bee's knees when I was 12 in the '80s. So, I'm really enjoying the show. So if the comic captures any of the energy of that, it's probably worth taking a look at.
There's also an excellent documentary on Netflix about the gorgeous wrestling that goes to the 80s.
Oh, really? Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Who can forget Cowgirl Wendy Richter? All right.
I see there's a Goosebumps book premiering this month. The Goosebump Horrors of the Witch House, #1.
What was Goosebumps again? I don't recall. I remember the name, but...
It was a series of children's horror novels.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Didn't they do a movie about that with Zach Galifianakis? Or Jack Black,
Jack Black, yeah. Yeah, they actually did 2 of them.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, the second one just came out somewhat recently, actually. Probably only less than half a year ago.
Let's see. IDW. I don't have a lot for this company. What do you guys got? Anything else you want to say about IDW?
I will point out, at least on DCBS, when it comes to trade paperbacks, I see that there's the Impossible Incorporated trade paperback solicited by J.M. DeMatteis and Michael Cavallaro. I'm not sure how new it is, but it's staring me right in the face, and I do enjoy J.M. DeMatteis, so I'm curious.
Oh. Well, Ian, before he came on, we were talking about how I think it was Dark Horse Murd, if I remember correctly, is reissuing the Moonshadow miniseries that he did with John J. Muth back in the 80s. I've yet to read anything by J.M. DeMatteis that I didn't like. He's easily one of my one of my go-to writers. I always enjoy his take.
Well, this is a cosmic book, and it involves a 17-year-old Number Horowitz, daughter of legendary genius adventurer Goliath Horowitz. She and her companions board a cosmic train called the Non-Local Express throughout the cosmos.
Sure, it's immensely fun.
It certainly looks that way.
Come on, it's DeMatteis. Oh, let's see what else we got here. I know nothing about the book Amber Blake. I guess I missed issue 1, but Butch Geist art. I'm going to butcher this name. Jade Lagardère. I'm sorry. I don't want to try because I'm just going to sound like some derelict. It's terrible. Amber Blake is a top recruit at a covert agency dead set on ending human slavery in all of its forms, limiting the criminals behind it. sabotaging. They're trying to sabotage a sex trafficking ring run by the Yakuza in Japan. That could. I mean, that's the kind of story that could be really well done. I love the cover, or it could be ham-handed. But I always love stories with covert agents and involved in espionage and things of that nature. Talking before about the classic Velvet, as I said before, with Ed Brubaker and Steve Epting. That's like a master class in that kind of story. Murd, page 178. Superman the Golden Age newspaper dailies, 47 to 49. Wayne Boring art, Murd.
Written by Alvin Schwartz, the man who first teamed Superman and Batman.
Murd, deep cut. Well done. Page 175, Roy G. Krenkel, Father of Heroic Fantasy, a centennial celebration. Illustrated works by Edgar Rice Burroughs, Robert E. Howard, Lynn Carter, so a lot of pulp stuff. No one does these types of books better than IDW. Just these loving, high-quality treatments of classic artists.
Couple pages back, I see there's a Star Trek Waypoint special being released. It's an anthology series for the 50-plus years of Star Trek history, and all it really says is that it's going to feature fan-favorite characters and some of today's best talents. So I'd love to know who that talent is.
I can tell you that, my friend, because in the actual previews they go in a little bit more detail.
Excellent.
Let me get back to that. Give me just one moment.
Writers Matt Sheehan, Malachi Ward, Tom Zoller, Stephen Mooney, and Corinna Bechko. Art by Malachi Ward, Stephen Mooney, Andy Price, and Daniel Irizarry.
Interesting. Nice to see Tom Zoller getting some Star Trek work.
Mm-hmm. And just like that, there are only two people in this conversation because Chris is... we're speculating that his internet may have died on him because he's suddenly no longer part of the Skype conversation and he's not showing us online on our instruments. So I guess the two of us will simply press on, which was... According to Chris, that's what we were going to have to do anyway. He had some kind of familial commitment. So maybe we'll hear from Chris again in a few minutes, and maybe we won't. But either way, let's move on to Marvel. Without him, it's what he would have wanted.
Sounds good to me.
All right. And what does Marvel have to offer us? So, well, there's this whole big Avengers thing. Chris keeps gushing over how much he's enjoying the Jason Aaron run on Avengers right now. And it looks like Blade the Vampire Hunter is going to become an Avenger in the near future.
You know, I feel like Blade has been everything else, so he may as well be an Avenger.
Has he been an X-Man? Probably not.
I mean, he was X-Men adjacent for a little bit there with Captain Britain and MI-13.
Oh, yeah, vampires were kind of a big deal in the X-verse for a while. It's true.
Yeah, and there was also, if memory serves, there was a run on the adjectiveless X-Men book where they were dealing with vampires, where Blade went around a lot.
Mm-hmm. Jubilee was a vampire.
Yep.
Yeah. And I guess technically, if you can classify the Submariner as a mutant, I mean, there was that whole thing with Blade's mother being bitten by a vampire while he was in the womb, and then he was born with these strange quasi-vampiric powers. I guess you could argue.
Yeah, fair enough. Everybody's a mutant if you try hard enough. I'm sure that if Chris was here, he would wax poetic on this. But we do have another Conan series starting up out of Marvel this month. Age of Conan. Is that pronounced Beli or Belit?
Given the language families of the languages that tend to be spoken in the Conan comics, I think it's probably going to be closer to something Scandinavian or Slavic than something French. So let's go with Belit.
Sounds good. But writer Tim Howard with art by Kate Nemzik. So the cover looks has gorgeous. I mean, that's not by either one of them, but Sana Takeda put a very, very pretty lady there on the cover, which has me interested because we get the Sea Devil of the Sea who would be queen in this miniseries. So could be cool.
The She Devil of the Sea who would be queen. All right.
50% off at DCBS as well for $1.99.
Terrific. I've got this whole big Avengers No Road Home 10-part storyline. Mark Waid is involved in that, so that's Enough to turn some heads.
That's supposed to be the sequel to that other Avengers big event, right? The one where they went weekly for a while?
Yes, exactly. And a lot of the same creators were involved as well.
Got it.
All right, Ian, why don't you sound off on what we see on pages 20 and 21, since you're the one who broke the story on CTS a couple episodes ago.
Which would that be? I'm working off the website.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Spider-Man Life Story.
Yes. Okay. Let me get to that real quick here, because luckily there's a nice Spider-Man button on DCBS, and it'll get me right to it.
Is there anything that website can't do?
Exactly. All right. Let's see. Yeah. So that was actually Chris, if memory serves. It's Chip Zdarsky working on a Spider-Man as if he was aging in normal time. And this first issue starts off with Spider-Man in the 60s. And art by Mark Bagley. So Chip Zdarsky on writing, Mark Bagley on art. You could not sell me any easier than that. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, that's writing for the new school Spider-Man fan and art for the middle school, I guess. I hesitate to say old school because that would be more like Romita. But that is a killer creative team, and I love the concept.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, as we discussed last time around, it's very, very similar to what Byrne did with Superman and Batman over at DC a while back.
Yeah,
World's Finest.
Exactly, the Generations series.
Yep.
So, yeah, we're going to end up with like a 70-something Peter Parker by the time we're done, but what a life you will have had. And who should rejoin us at this point but Chris?
Yes, thank you, my friends. It's a little bit of internet connection there. I appreciate the forbearance.
We were
talking about life story number 1, right?
Yep, we were just waxing poetic on what you brought up last time.
Yes, so this is... I mentioned how Lazarus, the Return of Lazarus, I'm most excited about in the new previews. This is the other book. If I was just going to buy a couple of comic books, this would be one of the books I'd be buying for this month. I'm deeply excited for this story. I mean, I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, as many listeners know. I haven't really been following the character much recently, but that doesn't, diminish my love for the character. And Chip Zdarsky, whose work I've been so impressed with, I mean, besides his art on Sex Criminals, but his writing on Marvel 2-in-1. I didn't read Spectacular Spider-Man, but I heard he had a great run on that as well. And again, this is one of the all-time great Spider-Man artists, Mark Bagley. And it's what if Spider-Man was living in real time? Starting at age 15 in 1962 right through the present, and how his experience intersect with events going on in the country. I cannot wait to read this. What do you guys think about this concept? I
love it. We were just talking about how much it intrigues us with the creative team, but my God, that cover too. It is. They're framing it almost as if it were a novel, and yeah. I absolutely love the way that they're going about that. I cannot wait to see how this turns out.
Merton, any thoughts on it?
Looks like it's going to engage with real-world historical events and topics, too, since those are pretty clearly helicopters bound for Vietnam that Spidey's hitching a ride on there. So,
I mentioned in the ad copy that, and this happened in the actual Spider-Man comic, that Flash Thompson is going to be drafted. And it leads Peter to do some soul-searching as well. Look at, for example, in the original art, you see some Norman Osborn, you see Harry, 60s, counterculture protesters. I cannot wait to read this. I'm so excited. I want to jump back for a minute, and I actually have to leave pretty soon, so I'm just going to do kind of a lightning round as we move through Marvel a bit. But
sure.
I mentioned in our last episode how much I was impressed by Jason Aaron's Conan the Barbarian #1. And I'm deeply excited. I'm using that phrase ad nauseum tonight, but to read this comic as well. The first issue really, I thought, captured just the essence of what makes Conan such a compelling, classic character. That was too alliterative for me. My apologies. Myrtle, only you can pull off alliteration.
Well, me and Stanley, and
I highly recommend that. And the other thing I'm excited about, because I'm always a sucker for vampire stories, is Aaron's work on Avengers and how he's bringing in Blade.
Yeah, we were just touching on that right before you joined.
Yeah, that's exciting. Can't go wrong with Blade. Throw some Dracula in there. I'm all over that.
And I don't know if you noticed in the previews, Chris, but also Amazing Spider-Man number 17 has Humberto Ramos returning to the title with a Kraven the Hunter arc.
I saw that. You know, Ian, I have mixed feelings on Ramos's art in Spider-Man. I love how he draws the villains. I'm not really a fan of how he draws regular people.
Fair enough.
But like his Green Goblin, I always found especially frightening. So Ramos doing Spidey villains, I'm all over that. Now, what have you guys heard about War of the Realms?
It's coming.
Ah, boy. There have been so many wars in Marvel that it's hard to keep track. Is this a sequel to War of Kings? Does it have anything to do with that, or is it just another war?
I think it's probably going to be just another war. War of Kings is long enough ago that it's not fondly enough remembered to be sequelized at this point.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Well, it's got a great creative team: Jason Aaron, Russell Dowderman, and Matthew Wilson, covered by Arthur Adams. And if you've been reading Thor, I mean, Aaron's been writing this epic story about the various realms and conflict, and Malekith, the Dark Elf, is kind of the engineer behind a lot of that. And based on what I'm reading here, that may be spilling over into the rest of the Marvel Universe. So, again, if Aaron's at the helm, I'm going to be reading this. I'm confident that I'm going to be enjoying it.
Aaron seems to just in general be having his time in the spotlight when it comes to Marvel. I mean, now that Bendis is gone and Hickman has stepped away to do his own stuff, and it seems like he is very much leading the charge as the new generation of minds behind the wheel at Marvel Comics.
Couldn't agree more. And I'm looking at his Conan stuff. Now, he's not doing this, but I love the Belit character from Conan. That's one of Conan's great loves, the Pirate Queen. Brian Wood did some great stories with her when he did what I consider a magnificent run on Conan, and when Dark Horse had the property. This is on page 10 and 11. That variant cover is just absolutely stunning on page 11. Holy mackerel. Actually, I think that's the main cover. I take that back. Sana Takeda. Beautiful. Oh, magnificent. And it looks like Conan is going to cross over to the Marvel Universe in Avengers No Road Home number 6, which is the new weekly Avengers story they're doing by the Ewing Wade and Jim Zub team. He's going to meet the Scarlet Witch.
Which I'm sure is not going to have any problems with it being reprinted if they ever lose the rights to Conan again.
Ian, we don't want cynicism on Comic Geek Speak. Come on now.
Hey, let's all just remember how hard it was to get Shang-Chi in reprint. Okay? We got to worry about that a little bit.
Yeah, oh, are you kidding? I treasure my hardcovers now that they've reprinted all those in omnibus format.
Yeah.
So, how about on page 27, Cosmic Ghost Rider destroys Marvel history?
Sure, why not?
He goes back in time and tries to kill Thanos as a baby. All right. Age of X-Men. Now, this is the Nate Gray, isn't it? Isn't that character?
Yes. There's definitely something. I've only heard snippets about what's going on, but something about Nate Gray inhabiting Legion and then basically starting up something along the lines of Age of Apocalypse as a result of it.
Okay.
And that's what's currently going on in the X books. And I see one of the titles that's premiering is Age of X-Man Apocalypse and Extracts #1. And I immediately see writer Tim Seeley, and I am intrigued.
Indeed. I wanted to point out as well, I missed this first issue, Invaders. I love the concept. It's written by Chip Zdarsky. How the hell did I miss this? They're soliciting issue 3 here.
Oh, and the art is by Carlos Magno, who is one of my favorite artists these days. I don't think I even knew that, but because it's the Invaders, I was going to buy it anyway.
And his very interesting rendition of Namor, almost like a sinister, pulpy, kind of Fu Manchu look to him there.
Yes, exactly.
So I have to backtrack those issues. Anybody reading Immortal Hulk?
I'm so behind on my Hulk, it's not even funny.
Okay. Because I haven't been reading Hulk in a long time. Wasn't Amadeus Cho the Hulk for a while? It wasn't even Bruce Banner, correct?
Yeah, he
Yes.
was the awesome Hulk.
Okay. So it looks like Banner's returning in Immortal Hulk 14. Beautiful cover by Alex Ross. My God. Look at that. Kind of does that Kirby Hulk, that the Neanderthal-like brow and the hairstyle. And, of course, the cover with Doc Samson for issue 15 is tremendous. I may have to get back to the Hulk. It's been a long time.
We have a Domino miniseries premiering from writer Gail Simone, so I believe this is going to take the place of the ongoing Domino series and just be a series of miniseries. This is Domino Hot Shots number 1 of 5 with art by David Baldione, and also 50% off for $1.99 on DCBS.
All right, I'm jumping ahead a bit because this is the centerfold of this catalog. On, again, no page numbers, page 64, 65, Doctor Strange 12. Now look at the banner for this creative team. Mark Waid and Barry Kitson.
Wow.
God! I've been loving this series. I don't know if you guys have been reading the new Doctor Strange series. Part of it was I'm a little behind, but Wade takes him out into space because he's lost his magic. He's trying to recover other sources of magic in the cosmos. So it gets in a series of intergalactic adventures, which is an interesting new take for environment for Doctor Strange. Lots of fun. Look at this Galactus image. My God. That is... Nobody does these stories better than Mark Waid, man. Like, the guy knows his history, and he just has such a reverent, fresh take on it.
And when he's partnered with Barry Kitson, the results are nothing less than magic.
Now, and Murd, they did JLA Year One, did they not?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
As well as that Flash and Green Lantern miniseries that we were talking about back in the DC section.
And they had that series, what was it, Empire? That
was so good.
Yeah.
Good pick, Ian. Yep. That was on the it briefly premiered in the very late Guerrilla Comics imprint.
Right.
Which folded pretty quickly. They had some great creators in that imprint. And like Kurt Busiek did Shock Rockets. I think Perez did Crimson Red, I think it was called.
Crimson Plague.
Plague, thank you. And then I think DC picked up Empire, and they did some more stories there. Empire is a great book. I'm glad you brought that up, Ian. If you love dystopian future stories, and the notion of a dictator whose his Achilles heel is kind of his love for his daughter, and what a monster she becomes, and the artwork. I mean, Kitson's artwork, man, it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Couple things, and I apologize, I got to bounce, but you can always jump back. I'm just jumping ahead to the Star Wars section. Star Wars Vader Dark Visions. So a new miniseries written by Dennis Hopeless. Everything Marvel's done with Darth Vader since they've gotten the property back, for me, has just been magnificent. So I'll definitely give this a try. Hopeless sheds new light on the many sides of the galaxy's greatest villain. I love that image as Vader is almost like a dark knight on some sort of equine type creature with that Imperial shield. Fantastic. By the way, gentlemen, 2 nights ago, I watched Solo again. I hadn't seen it since it came out in the theaters. I don't know why that movie gets a lot of knocks. I thought it was a lot of fun. Did you guys see the Solo?
I saw Solo. I thought Solo was so-so, to be honest.
Okay, fair enough.
It's fun. I will agree with that. I just feel like it was I don't know. It was just sort of there for me, if that makes any sense. Like I enjoyed it enough, but it wasn't good enough to warrant its existence for me.
Did you see it, Murd? I'm sorry, I don't remember if you did or not.
Well, sure. We did a review episode on it.
Oh, that's Murd. I greatly apologize. Forgive me.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I can see where Ian is coming from here. I'll agree that it's not what I would call an enduring classic, but it was a fun ride while it lasted, certainly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, seeing it again, the highlight is Donald Glover as Lando Calrissian.
Absolutely.
Oh, my God. I mean, he even has the cadence of Billy D. Williams' voice down in that performance. And when he's reciting his memoirs, that makes the film. I'd love to see them do more with him as Lando Calrissian in the future.
That would be nice.
Couple quick shout-outs before I depart. Very interesting, on 102, Marvel Comics: The World Outside Your Window. So this is a collection of, let's call them, topical stories that deal with, real world issues, like the classic Hulk issue where Jim Wilson is dying of AIDS. So they go back to Spidey 97, part of the classic drug storyline with Harry Osborn. Howard the Duck number 8. I'm going to guess that's when Howard runs for president, although I'm not positive. I don't have it in front of me. But that's an interesting collection. $50 for 320 pages. And Mert, I know you're not a fan of Silver Surfer Parable on page 104. I love the Mobius art in that, though. He's one of the great renderings of Galactus that I've ever seen. And very excited on page 105. Kirby is mighty. King-size hardcover. So they're collecting a lot of the classic Thor cosmic stories Kirby did, which we talked about in our Thor Spotlight Silver Age Spotlight episode. If you want to see Kirby completely unleashed on a grand operatic cosmic scale, these are stories to check out. Absolutely beautiful. Ego the Living Planet. Come on. High Evolutionary. This is great stuff. Mert, I know your heart's palpitating a little bit right now.
A little bit.
All right, before I leave the episode in your more than capable hands, gentlemen, one last thing I wanted to point out before familial duty calls is I was very excited to see in the – I think is it Aftershock? Let me jump ahead here. Might be Aftershock. I think Garth Ennis is doing a new war comic.
Ah, yes, then it is Aftershock.
Yeah, and every time he does that, I have to make a note. It's the same team he did the Johnny Red storyline, which is an old British character who flew with the Soviet Air Force. And this is called Out of the Blue. Remember, we were talking about this concept before. So it's not a monthly comic. It's volume 1 of 2 graphic novels. And it's about a British bomber pilot in the closing days of the war in Europe. It's Garth Ennis, drawn by Keith Burns. That's enough. I mean, Johnny Red was tremendous. Looking at the sample art here, this, again, the attention to historical detail, to the technical detail of the planes and the weaponry. No one does a war comic better than Ennis. So sign me up for that very much. And I also wanted to point out, because we mentioned Corinna Bechko before, under Boom, one collection I really enjoy, story I really enjoyed that they're collecting, let me get to it, is Planet of the Apes, on page 225. Planet of the Apes Before the Fall Omnibus. This takes place 20 years before Taylor arrives on this future Earth. And it's about some of the dark, seamier underbelly and some of the secrets of the world of Ape City. These stories are really well done. If you're an Apes fan, I highly recommend you get this omnibus. It's 496 pages, $40 before the DCB service discount. Really recommend this. Illustrated by Gabriel Hardman. Great stuff if you're an Apes fan. Gentlemen, I apologize for having to depart.
All good.
But as always, this was an honor. Ian, I sleep better at night, sir. Knowing you're with us.
Excelsior, my friend. We'll
Indeed. Mert, brother, I shall talk to you soon.
I look forward to it, Chris.
All right, my friends. Have a good night. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Good night, sir.
Good night. Good night.
So there is a lot for me to mention at Marvel because it feels like this is the month where they're releasing a bunch of trade paperbacks and a bunch of number ones that I've actually been looking forward to. I want to roll back, if you don't mind, Mert, to Magnificent Ms. Marvel number 1.
Not at all. Say on, Brother Livingston.
All right. I was mentioning last month that it was the final issue of G. Willow Wilson's long run on Ms. Marvel, the character, and here we are with Magnificent Ms. Marvel number 1 by writer Saladin Ahmed, who was the acclaimed writer of Black Bolt. I actually really enjoyed that series, and the most recent take on Exiles, which ended a few months ago. He's also the new writer of the Miles Morales comic coming out of Marvel, and he's teaming up with artist Minkju Jung to put a little bit of a new take on the character from the looks of this. Aliens are wrecking havoc in Kamala's corner of the world, and they seem weirdly interested in Ms. Marvel and her family. So very, very curious to see what a new writer is going to do with this character, and I'm happy to see that she's not just going to the back of the bus like some other characters do when their creators go bye-bye.
Yeah. I guess her sales must have been strong enough to warrant somebody else taking the wheel.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And that's another 50% off book, by the way, for any of you DCPS folks for $1.99.
Fantastic.
All right. Marvel Rising #1. This is, I believe, tied with the animated movie that's going to be coming out for the basically the all-girl Marvel animated movie that they were teasing for a while. This has a team consisting of America Chavez, Spider-Gwen, Ms. Marvel, looks like Captain Marvel, and also Squirrel Girl, gathering together into one girl squad to battle some baddies. So could be cool.
Could be. Anything with Squirrel Girl in it. Well, perhaps I speak too soon there. I'm actually kind of losing my patience with the monthly Squirrel Girl series right now.
Oh, really?
But although I'm kind of tempted by this month's issue, which is the 50th anniversary issue of a, well, no, it's not 50 years of Squirrel Girl, but it is 50 issues of the present run, if you overlook the fact that it was split into 2 volumes, 8 issues of one, and then a second first issue within the first year. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's coming out this month, and it's going to be kind of a time travel thing where we see 3 distinct versions of Doreen Green, including the original take, which I prefer to what's been in comics these days. Page 68. It's issue number 42. So there's something else, Squirrel Girl, coming out in March, but. Yep, we've also got Marvel Rising, sure enough. And you say that this is going to be a motion picture?
I believe so. Yeah, I know that there was talk of a all girl animated. I forget whether it's an animated series or whether it's an animated movie, but I believe it's called Marvel Rising: Secret Warriors.
I thought I'd heard something about a TV project.
Yeah. That's more than likely the case there, yeah, because it looks like it was released back in September. So that's more than likely what that is. On Disney XD.
Yes, of course, which is why I haven't seen very much of it. Yeah. It's during the summers and we're in Stone Harbor, I have access to that channel. But come home, descend to reality, I'm stuck with my basic tier package.
Well,
poor me.
Meanwhile, an omnibus that everyone was waiting for with bated breath, Heroes Reborn. Oh boy. I think they're releasing this because supposedly Rob Liefeld has a new project with Marvel, and it's something that he was working on possibly even as early as 1993 from the sketch that he was talking about. So this might be
sounds like his pace.
Yeah, right. Here's hoping he hasn't been working on it since 1993. That would be a problem. But this collects Heroes Reborn, Captain America 1 through 12, Avengers 1 through 12, Fantastic Four 1 through 12, Iron Man 1 through 12, and Incredible Hulk number 450 from that bygone era where most of Marvel's major characters were off in a sub-universe while everybody else was picking up the pieces.
What heady times were they?
Yeah, because it's not like it's not like Marvel has gotten rid of other heroes and suddenly brought them back after being gone for a few months. Nah.
Seems like it's happened to the Fantastic Four more than a couple of times.
You ain't kidding.
Yeah. Yep, I finally found it. It's on page 100. Yeah,
there you
go. Ooh, wow, 1,360 pages.
Yeah. That's a heady read right there, and even with the 50% off, it's $62.50.
Yeah. Once again, please visit your local comic book shop and patronize their back issue bins.
Yes, very very much so. To say the least, you can probably find those for 50 cents, not even $1. You got any other trades or single issues?
Well, I'm drawn on page 121 to the Decades Marvel in the 70s Legion of Monsters trade paperback.
Saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, stories featuring Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, Blade, Manphibian, and never before reprinted tales of terror, probably featuring less marketable monsters than those. Legion of Monsters number 1, Marvel Preview number 8, Marvel Premiere number 28. So it's reprints of some key Marvel monster comics, including the first issue of Tomb of Dracula by Wolfman and Colon. And
It should be a nice smattering of goodness.
yeah, kind of a broad creature platter there. Just a sampling of different Bronze Age monster things, although there's a lot more they could have included in there.
Agreed. I see there's a miniseries. I know I brought up on our most recent comic talk the Spider-Man of the video game universe, and now they're going to be making a miniseries out of the story of that video game from the looks of it, with actually writing by Dennis Hopeless. Marvel's Spider-Man City at War number 1. It looks like it'll be a 6-issue miniseries, giving you some story from the game and some in-between scenes and whatnot, with some behind-the-scenes features, because of course.
Of course. Yeah. Same guy who's also writing that Darth Vader on horseback miniseries this same
Yes.
month. He's having a month of it.
I'm hopeless for Vader on a horse. Did you check out Marvel Universe: The End?
Oh yes, there it is. Actually, I'm trying to remember if I think I've actually read this. I mean, it's right around the time that I'm read up to at this point, or maybe not. If I did read it, it must not have made a very big impression on me. I know I've read Infinity Abyss.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering if I've gotten those two confused somehow.
It's a possibility because this came out right around the time that Marvel was coming out with all those other The End books. So Hulk The End and X-Men The End by Claremont, and I think Marvel Universe The End was directly after those.
Yeah, you know what? I think I actually have read this. Yeah, I remember it's Thanos. He gains another fantastic cosmic power MacGuffin called the Forever Engine or the Heart of Forever or something like that, and he basically unmakes all of reality and then decides to unmake it after that. But yeah, so I'm not in the market for a trade paperback of it. But.
Fair enough. Let's see if anything else catches my eye here. Trade paperback was. I think that might be it. Although I do see, where was it here? Volume 3 of the current Runaways series is solicited. And I've been reading that in trade and really been enjoying it. It's easily the best Runaways since Brian K. Vaughan was writing the title. Rainbow Rowell's got a really good voice for them. It feels pretty natural and in character with what was established with the characters beforehand. And curious what Volume 3 is going to bring.
I noticed there's a trade here on page 132 of S.H.I.E.L.D. by Hickman and Weaver.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that series that really takes the concept of S.H.I.E.L.D. in some unexpected historical directions, revealing that it has roots all the way back in the Renaissance. Co-founded by Da Vinci. So yeah, that collects all 6 dramatically separated in time issues of that series, since it kind of went on unexpected hiatus between issues 4 and 5, and also the S.H.I.E.L.D. Infinity one-shot.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wasn't even sure if those issues had come out or whether or not they were just soliciting the trade, but I guess they did, and I missed them.
Yeah, they did. I'm pretty sure I missed one of them, too, and I had to resort to ordering them from an online back-issue merchant to get them.
Oh, boy. Yeah, well, I may just jettison my issues and just pick up the trade, because it's an excellent series. It's just I will have to reread it all, because it's been years since I read the first 4 issues.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing. And that's why this trade is such a good idea.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I see an epic collection for the Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos, which could be interesting.
All right.
Yeah. Let's see. It collects issues. It actually collects some Iron Man issues, issues 233 to 244, and then Iron Man Crash, and then Marvel Fanfare number 22, 23, and 44.
I think we may be looking at a misprint here, Ian.
That sounds like a plan. Yeah. Somebody posted the wrong thing because, since when does Sergeant Fury have anything to do with Iron Man? I should look before I leap.
Yes.
But
Well, it's not your fault at all, Ian. It's Marvel pulling a boner here. The copy discusses Iron Man and his friends and foes exclusively, and the creative teams Bob Layton, David Michelinie. It's all Iron Man stuff. So, take two, Marvel. Nice idea to give us some classic Marvel War comics, but try to make the catalog copy actually describe the merchandise correctly next time.
that would be lovely, yeah, because, I mean, this is Lee, Kirby, and Ayers. It says so right there on the cover itself, and I'd love to know what issues are in it. Maybe Amazon might have it listed, because that is something that I've never really dabbled into, and I've always been interested in. The old Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos stuff. Like, I know way more about Fury as a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent than I do during his war days.
Yeah, same here.
All right. In fact, I'm bringing it up right now on Amazon, and shockingly, it collects Sergeant Fury number 1 through 19.
Okay.
So 19 issues. That's actually a decent amount. Those epic issues, epic collections do bring a lot to the table. So that's 19 issues for $19.99 if you buy them from DCBS.
Well, assuming that's the correct price.
Yes, you are correct about that.
That might be the price of whatever Iron Man collection is being described there. And since DCBS seems to have been taking their cues from whatever information Marvel provided them.
Mm-hmm. Well, cross your fingers.
Yeah. Hope for the best.
Yeah.
Anything else to spotlight under Marvel, Ian?
Not really. You know what? I'll get one more, because why the heck not? Spider-Man 2099 versus Venom. The trade paperback featuring writing from Peter David from back in the day. And art by Andrew Wildman and a bunch of others. Cover artist is Rick Leonardi on this. It's got Spider-Man 2099 issues 34 to 38, and special Spider-Man 2099 meets Spider-Man and material from 2009 Unlimited numbers 9 through 10. I'm almost certain this has never been collected before, so it's just nice to see more Spider-Man 2099 stuff getting collected.
Yes, and anything written by Peter David collected, for that matter.
Yep.
So this is, I'm guessing there's going to be at least one token appearance by current Venom and a bunch of appearances by Venom 2099.
I believe so, yes. And may even have 2099 Vulture in there if the cover is to give us any ideas. Mm-hmm. Sort of looks like a cross between Kraven and the Vulture, just the appearance alone.
If I remember correctly, he was a cannibal.
So a vulture.
Yeah, exactly. Name yourself after a carrion-eating scavenger creature, then I guess cannibalism would kind of come with the territory.
Yeah, right. And I think that's just about it from Marvel, because there's just so much, and I can't seem to bring myself to say any more.
All right, then. Let's pull the plug, move forward.
Here.
See if we can find new reserves of energy tackling a different topic. All right. To Dynamite. Since they're next. And they're leading off this month. Their gem of the month is The $6 Million Man, #1. Another issue, another series focusing on Steve Austin and his adventures in the 1970s. And the angle that the creators are taking here is that his 1970s issue $6 million parts are starting to outlive their warranty, and so it is exploring what the $6 million, what Steve Austin the man must do when his $6 million components become suddenly unreliable. So it kind of goes swiftly from a story of espionage and action to a story of survival. And the first issue is 50% off at DCBService.com.
I like the concept. It's Certainly a different take on the character.
Yeah, I don't think he came off as anywhere near that vulnerable in the original TV show.
Yep. Concurrent with that, they're also soliciting a $6 Million Man Season 6 because it seemed that seemed to be the trend for a while where, companies were putting out, quote-unquote, unreleased seasons of, continuing the story of canceled TV shows. So that's another take on the character that you can check out in collected form.
Cool. Yeah, I'm not seeing much else in Dynamite that's not a continuation of something remarked upon in an earlier episode.
Yeah.
One thing I had wanted to mention to Chris, we kind of blew through the free comic book day offerings at the beginning of the book. But Dynamite's free comic book day product is it has to do with Vampirella because her 50th anniversary is coming up this year. And,
nice.
There's going to be a Vampirella series written by Christopher Priest.
Whoa, that's well. If you can guarantee something that Sir Eberly will check out, I think that's it.
That he probably would have checked out for no other reason.
Yep. But that's an interesting creator to take her on. That's I think that might actually be a good fit.
I'll try it.
Yeah, why not? I'm looking through everything else here on Dynamite, and yeah, that most things, like you said, seem to be ongoings or collections. So nothing else. Although I will say, since you did mention Free Comic Book Day, that that's the thing that will get me to the shop more than anything else, and will probably get me to buy some trades along the way. And I suggest you all do the same because that's very much Comic Book Appreciation Day, more than anything else for me.
Yeah.
Go see whatever movie is coming out that first week of May, which we all know which one it is this time around because there's dust involved, and then go and read some comics and get some free ones and buy some not free ones and support your local comic shop.
Yep, you are echoing an exhortation that Chris made earlier this episode, and it can't be said often enough.
Right on. All right, I think we can move on to another publisher because I ain't seen nothing.
All right, then. I guess next is going to be Boom.
Boom! All right, let's see.
Oh, hey, we've got a new Greg Pak miniseries coming out through Boom.
Oh, nice.
It's page 216, Ronin Island. After a mysterious attack wipes out the major cities of 19th century Japan, Korea, and China, survivors from all three lands find refuge on a hidden island and build a new society. And historically, anyone who knows anything about Asian history knows that those are three nations that have not gotten along very well at all times in history. So, yeah, in the 19th century, representatives of all three of them dumped together and forced... It's the stuff that revisionist history and reality television is made of. And,
you ain't kidding.
And it's written by Greg Pak, a guy that we know can write, with art by Giannis Milonogiannis. And the first issue is going to be 50% off if you order it from dcbservice.com.
Speaking of Mr. Pak and 50% off, there's also the collected edition. I didn't even know he was writing this, but he's writing the new Firefly comic out of Boom Studios, and they're collecting the first volume of that in hardcover this month for 50% off for only $9.99. Writer Greg Pak with art by Dan McDade. And, I've always been a fan of the Firefly TV show. Why not check out another comic? Because they've certainly tried a lot to try and keep Firefly going, and this is their newest attempt. Not a lot else. I see, just a trade paperback collection of Smooth Criminals, which I like from the name alone.
You prefer Michael Jackson or Alien Ant Farm?
Oh, definitely Michael Jackson.
You are correct, sir.
Although it does look kind of cool. It looks like I like the style of the art and the costumes of the two women on the front there. And it's when Brenda, geeky hacker extraordinaire, accidentally awakens Mia, an international jewel thief, frozen in time from the 1960s. She wasn't sure what to expect, but it surely wasn't a new partner in crime. So that's a collection of the first 4 issues of that. And that is exclusively available in comic book stores. Not available at your local Barnes & Noble, folks. Just at your local comic book shop. And through DCBS for 50% off.
Right. Yes, online retailers qualify.
Yes, they do. Now that's just about it for Boom.
Okay. Boom has gone boom. All right, let's drift along here to the back of the book.
Ah, yes.
All right, probably the one thing that I found most interesting in the whole back issue small press independent section of the catalog can be found on page 252 of your catalog. It's under Aftershock Comics. And it's just the very page before that out of the blue wartime aerialist Garth Ennis project that Chris was talking about. It's called Dark Red, and it's an interesting kind of take on the vampire story. Oftentimes, the vampires you encounter in fiction are kind of decadent and cosmopolitan. But this is a story about a blue-collar middle American vampire. He lives somewhere in the Bible Belt and works the graveyard shift at a filling station convenience store. And then he meets a mysterious woman that turns his life upside down. It appears to be kind of a cross-pollination of vampirism and Trumpism. The title Dark Red, it's a play on both the color of blood and also the color of Republican states. You know, dark red in that respect. And it's written by one Tim Seeley.
Okay.
So this is something that I think I'm going to check out. You don't often see the rural conservative take on vampirism, and rural conservatism is something with which I have a good deal of firsthand experience. So let's just see how Tim Seeley hybridizes the two ideas.
I'm reminded slightly of an anime I watched a couple of years back called Devil is a Part-Timer, where the devil winds up in our world, and since he doesn't have any money, he decides to go work at a McDonald's type restaurant and tries to build his fortune from there.
Interesting place for him to start his way up the vocational ladder.
Well, he had to start his way up the food chain.
You think he'd had a few... I see what you did there. Yeah, I figured could call in a few favors from people in high places, but maybe not. I noticed that under Ahoy Comics, we don't have a new issue of The Wrong Earth to buy this month.
No, I think if memory serves, they were taking a bit of a hiatus after the first run. Because I know Jamal has plenty of other things on his plate.
Good.
Yeah, so it's not the last we'll see of it. It's just I think they're doing it in a season style, if memory serves.
Okay, yeah, that seems to work for a lot of things coming out through Image. And I did see that from Ahoy Comics there will be a free comic book day issue of Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man.
Excellent.
With a cover by Jamal.
As well there should be. Let's see. Trying to find a good manga recommendation because, again, that's my go-to. But let's see. I think this might be... Yeah, why not? We'll give this a shot here. 86 light. This is actually a collection of light novels. So what light novels are sort of I guess the good way to describe light novels is that they're Japanese prose. Oftentimes very easy to get through. So sort of like the sort of soft covers you might find at a supermarket or something like that. Only they're usually anime-esque stories, and some of which later become mangas or anime. Like I know the Fate Stay Night series started off as light novels and wound up becoming both manga and video games and anime after that. But this one looks kind of interesting, mostly because it was actually the winner of the 23rd annual Dengeki Nobel Prize, one of the most prestigious honors within the light novel sphere. The San Magnolia Republic has long been under attack by unnamed weapons from the neighboring empire. Against this onslaught, the Republic has also deployed similar weapons, narrowly avoiding great loss of life and impending disaster, or at least that's how it seemed. The truth is that it has never been possible to have no casualties. Young men and women drawn from the Republic's supposedly non-existent 86th district are organized into the 86th unit and then ordered to pilot the unnamed weapons before heading to battle. Almost like a Japanese Hunger Games type scenario from the looks of things. The publisher, I think, might actually be called Manga Press, if memory serves. But it's in the book. You can definitely find it. The product code is JAN192345, and it's a solid 45% off for $7.70 on DCBS.
Huh. So, are these light novels are prose, you say?
They are, yes. They'll have the occasional image in them to sort of move the story along, but yes, they are indeed novels, and like I said, oftentimes wind up being then turned into a manga or an anime after the fact. But it's the second cousin twice removed of manga, basically. That's what light novels are.
I get the picture.
Yep.
Yeah, just looking for it here in the manga. So it might possibly be under books.
That's a possibility. But either way, take a look for 86 light novel volume 1.
And you've given them the code, so that
yes, I have.
Should be enough to point them in the right direction. All right. There was something under Archie I wanted to mention.
Right ahead.
Page 280 in your catalog. If you're in the mood for some retro mid-'60s camp, it's a collection of Archie as the Man from Riverdale stories. And that's Riverdale as an R abbreviation point, I abbreviation point, etc. as an acronym. So this is it's a secret agent send-up that started appearing in the pages of Life with Archie back in the mid-'60s. It's a parody of The Man from U.N.C.L.E., basically, which just got wilder and sillier as the series wore on. It was kind of running parallel to the superhero parody Archie as Pureheart the Powerful. And I've had a collection of those stories from Archie for a while now, and this is probably not the first time this collection's been offered, but having read just last year Tomorrow's Publishing's excellent Comics Hero A Go-Go series, which is a kind of a paean to the influence of the camp movement in the broader culture on comic books. Man from Riverdale was written up there, and I'm kind of curious to read these stories now, having read about them in that book. And now here's this collection, 224 pages worth of silly Archie secret agent spoofs. So I'm throwing my recommendation on that.
Man, they really have done everything in Archie style, haven't they?
No, they've had plenty of time to get around to doing everything.
Speaking of Tomorrow's Publishing, I see in Alter Ego number 158, they shine a spotlight on William Woolfolk.
Yep. One of the most prolific Captain Marvel and family writers in Fawcett history. He doesn't quite measure up to the record of Otto Binder, but he probably wrote second or third greatest number of stories, and he might actually have written more Captain Marvel Jr. scripts than Binder did. That was kind of his specialty character. He was also notably somewhat embarrassed about his work in the comics. He was one of the guys who would leave the Fawcett offices with comics in a plain brown paper wrapper so that he could carry them out on the street without feeling shame. So, yeah, I guess Alter Ego, it's given over to the Fawcett Collectors of America, and we're focusing on him after a similar focus being placed on Otto Binder in an issue from last year. And these issues of Alter Ego are a fantastic resource. And I do kind of wish that this issue would come out a year or two sooner so that I could have used it in my Spotlight on Shazam series of episodes. Because it says here there's a breakdown of his scripting records. So we'd finally, after I made so much in those episodes of not knowing which Golden Age writer wrote which Captain Marvel story, now it can be told, apparently.
Well, I'm glad it's being told one way or the other.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of a supplement for those of you whose curiosity in this period of Shazam history was piqued by our Spotlight episodes. Pick up Alter Ego number 158.
And also out of tomorrow's, the softcover edition of Comic Book Implosion has me intrigued. I believe there was a hardcover before this, because this doesn't seem like a new release, but I could be wrong about that. But it's touching on the DC explosion and later implosion of 1978, with all those comics coming out and the bottom dropping out, basically.
Yes, a very interesting time in mainstream comics publishing, and it's told in kind of an oral history format. Yeah, I know Pants loved this book and just devoured it in the course of a couple of days. Then he passed it on to me, and I've just allowed it to gather dust ever since. But it's a story I know that I will like if I ever find the right time to devote time to actually reading it.
Thinking once I'm finally done reading the untold history of Marvel Comics that I keep renewing over and over again digitally from the library, that I'll finally I'll touch on Comic Book Implosion after that if there's a Kindle copy for me to take. Let's see here.
Page 303. Here's something that Chris would be recommending to you if he were still with us. It's a new printing of another one of these World War II era aviator stories that Garth Ennis is so fond of writing these days. Night Witches. Tale of some female pilots of Soviet Russia. Yes, and I know Chris has recommended that in the past, and he would do so again, but I'm standing in for him and doing it now.
It certainly sounds like an Ennis book.
And indeed, it is.
I got one over at Oni.
All right.
Morning in America #1. Writer on this one is Mags Visaggio, who had a DC book somewhat recently. I believe she was writing Element Girl, if memory serves. And this one is set in the year 1983 after a series of disappearances strike a town in Ohio, and the opening based around the opening of a new factory from the looks of it, and there's a whole mystery that unravels around it. The cover has a girl made out of skeletons wearing 1980s sunglasses, so it's a striking image to say the least. And I'd love to know more about what's going on there, whether it's supernatural or whether it's just mystery. But the artist is Claudia Aguirre. And that's another 50% off book for DCBS as well. So only a solid $2 for that first issue.
Yeah. Looks and sounds like an 80s teensploitation apocalyptic horror movie.
Yes, it does.
And that is a cool thing.
Amen to that. I think I've nearly shot my bolt, but I don't know about you.
Yeah, my energy does wane a bit, but a little bit further to go here.
Right on.
Page 357. Interesting little something coming out through Quirk Books. An adaptation of, quote, The Strangest Movie Never Made, a never-realized collaboration between the Marx Brothers and Salvador Dali.
Oh, my God.
A Marx Brothers movie that was to be entitled Giraffes on Horseback Salad.
What?
Yeah, that sounds like a title that would leap from the mind of a master surrealist. But apparently some long-lost script treatment for that movie has surfaced, and I hope that's actually the case and this whole thing isn't just being made up by the creators involved. But apparently a graphic novel is being made on this, adapting this never-produced screenplay. Writers are Josh Frank and Tim Heidecker, and art by Manuela Pertega.
Wow.
A remarkable plural marriage of art, absurdity, biography, and comedy. Giraffes on Horseback Salad is a cinematic, comedic, and literary experience like no other.
Color me intrigued.
I believe I'm a similar shade of intrigued, Ian. And I've always been more of a Stooges guy than a Marx Brothers guy, and I'm told that you can only be one or the other. But this really does interest me.
I'm very intrigued. Yeah, especially since I have you ever watched the documentary about Jodorowsky's Dune?
No.
Okay, that's something you should definitely check out at some point. Just because it's a take on Dune that never got off the ground. That predates the version we actually received.
The Ridley Scott version.
Yes, the Ridley Scott version, and Mobius did a whole bunch of work on the sketchings for this, like the actual like pre-production stills and whatnot. And a lot of the movies we saw after the fact very much take their inspiration from this unproduced version of Dune, including Aliens, because a lot of the pre-production for this then wound up being repurposed for Aliens later on, and you see some screens of images of like sweeping ships through the night sky and whatnot that really remind you of Star Wars and things like that. Basically, this happened, I'd say, a decade too soon, or else it probably would have actually happened. A very, very interesting documentary.
Wow. And, I just read Dune for the first time this past summer, so maybe I should seek that out sooner than later.
The reason I bring it up is because he actually wanted to have Salvador Dali star as one of the characters in Dune.
Wow. So, I'm surprised he was still alive that late, actually.
It was one of the last things that he was going to wind up doing. The cast would have included Salvador Dali, Orson Welles, Gloria Swanson, Mick Jagger. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a 70s production, all right.
You ain't kidding.
Bizarrely eclectic and possibly drug-fueled.
100% both. Oh, boy.
All right. I'd be remiss if I didn't throw a bone to Valiant every chance I get.
Go ahead.
Because it was the will of Jamie D. And their big thing this month at Valiant is The Life and Death of Toyo Harada. First issue of a 6-issue miniseries. And Harada is, with the possible exception of Master Dark, the master villain of the Valiant universe, introduced as part of the Harbinger series back in the 90s. He's been kind of the Lex Luthor of Valiant for years now. And here's a new 6-issue miniseries focusing on him, written by Josh Dysart, art by Kafu and Miko Sueyan. So there's a villain-centric title. That's the sort of thing that I tend to enjoy.
And speaking of villains, because since everything winds up going back to 2000 AD, I will also mention the Villains Takeover special one shot. This is a solid 50-cent book that's being released this month, and the DCBS price is 30 cents.
Couldn't quite pass all the savings on to us, I see.
Nah.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Actually, I'm seeing that solicited here in the catalog as 99 cents.
Yes. Go figure.
So if that's so, they're actually giving us more than a 50% discount.
Yeah, wow. Go figure.
That. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Ian. No way I'm passing that up.
Yeah, it's let's see. I'm looking for the creators on it, but Rob Williams is one of the writers listed. But we've also got a story by Matt Smith and Chris Weston. Those are both names that sound familiar to me. I mean, I'm sure it's not that Matt Smith.
Yeah,
but,
Chris Weston, you may remember, was the artist on The 12 from Marvel.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, we were just talking about the Ministry from Space miniseries that he did with Warren Ellis a few years ago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so if he's in here, that's all the more reason to give it a try. And I can just hear Dr. Eamon Clark urging us on.
Especially for that price.
Yes, there's just no reason not to try that. Because, as you said, everything does come back to 2000 AD. Every damn time.
Yes, it does.
All right. Well, Ian, I think my bolt is now officially shot.
Yeah, I think mine is too, unless I find some collectibles that look cool, since those always wind up Every single time I look at the collectibles section, I slap myself for looking at the collectibles section because it's all stuff I shouldn't be buying. But oh god, they all look so pretty.
But as geeks, we just never learn that lesson.
You ain't kidding.
Don't look at the merch.
I see that the one thing that I will mention is a Batman animated series Bat Cycle.
Oh, yeah.
That's being released.
I just found that. Yeah.
Although it does not appear to actually be from the Batman animated series, so I'm not sure why it's being solicited as such. That looks like the Batman to me. But it is highly possible that I'm also just looking at the wrong image because that happens. But it says it's supposed to be based on the design from the beloved Batman the Animated Series, but the image on the DCBS site is of the Batman. So I'm going to go with they have the wrong image and that the description is correct.
It has been known to happen.
Yes. 6 inches tall, and it's a $40 piece of plastic that I should not buy, but I want to.
Yeah, but it would be a $60 piece of plastic elsewhere.
Good point. All right. I will shoot my bolt.
All right. And mine has already been shot, so let's draw this endeavor to a close here.
That sounds good to me.
Oh, wait, I spoke too soon. On pages 68 and 60, appropriately, pages 68 and 69, Yellow Submarine figurines, appropriate because the Yellow Submarine movie was released in 1968. It had its golden anniversary last year. So it's a bunch of little 4.5-inch tall vinyl figurines of the Beatles and also a Blue Meanie. And there's even one of the Yellow Submarine itself. So those are pretty neat.
They are pretty neat, yes. Now I will have that song stuck in my head for the rest of the night.
In the town where I was born lived a man. That's just me cementing it for you. Lodging it in place.
Yes. And right before we wrap up, what do you think about Cyclops going back to his 90s costume? Because I just now noticed that as I was flipping through here that Marvel seems to be putting him back in that Jim Lee outfit for some reason, and it never made sense to me in the first place, and it just feels like such nostalgia to bring him back to that.
Yeah, I hadn't even noticed until you said something, or I assumed it was one of the various alternate skewed timeline hijinks that are a part of the Age of X-Man story. So is it the open top cowl that didn't make sense to you?
All those damn pockets.
Oh, well, yeah.
It's just I don't know. I feel like we've seen so many better costumes for Cyclops over the years, and I mean even that one that didn't make any sense with the X over his eyes for me are just a better look than visible hair Cyclops. It's just I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way. It may just be that I just hated the Cyclops from the X-Men and the animated series so much, but who the hell knows?
Yeah, I never hated Cyclops in any incarnation. But I do agree with you, though, that shameless nostalgia is the only motivation we could point to for going back to that costume. But for that matter, we've got brown and yellow Wolverine in the background.
I see that, yeah. And, yeah, I think, I don't know, I guess maybe it's just been long enough now where everybody who was young when we were young wants to see wants to see what they read when they were young back on the page. And frankly, I just would rather see things move forward.
Fair enough. Yes, I'm certainly not in love with that version of the Cyclops costume either. But I've always assumed those pouches contain field rations. That's where they carry.
That makes sense.
They carry their snacks.
Maybe multiple cell phones.
Well, in the 90s, though?
I know. I'm making it today. So he can call all 7 teams of the X-Men at once.
Right, stop that. This has got silly.
All right.
All right, time to bring this home. Let me remind everyone one more time, and also tell you for the first time, Ian, that the Comic Geek Speak Best of 2018 awards are happening. So please visit the comicforums.vanillacommunity.com for all the details, and then send your nominations into bestof@comicgeekspeak.com by the end of the day on Sunday, February 10th. And then we'll have a big old nominations party where we just gas on for hours and hours about all the best in comics of the year that was.
Here to that.
Right. And I'd also like to remind everyone that this episode was sponsored by Discount Comic Book Service. Visit them at dcbservice.com to learn about all their discounts and find out how they can help you meet all your online comic book pre-ordering needs. If you'd like to send us an email, the address is comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. If you'd like to send us or call us and leave a voicemail, you can call 267-702-6642. You can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter, where our handle is @ComicGeekSpeak. You can visit thecomicforums.vanillacommunity.com, not only to find out about the CGS Best of 2018 awards, but also to leave feedback on our various episodes, and also enter into conversations with your fellow CGS listeners and comic fans. We'd like to give a special thank you to everyone who has supported the show monetarily in the past. We really appreciate it. The show would not be what it is today without your help. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time.
You got it on Wednesday, and you was like about it going to the volume up. These guys will talk about it, everything the geeks love. From cakes to laser beams, opinions like the seasons on everything you read in comics, movies, games, toys, artists, comic geek speak, comic geek speak, comic geek speak, comic geek speak, comic geek. Uniting the world's mightiest heroes. This is Comic Geek Speak.
Dancing in my chair.